Easy guys, Dom here from CDG. So welcome to a new player's guide to base building in DEADSIDE on the PS5. So we're going to be specifically looking about starting your first base in the game using the PS5 controller, because a lot of the tutorials that you would probably find online are going to be more geared up towards the PC, because this is, the platform that the game first launched on into early access. There's a lot of content on PC already about the game, but being only released onto console recently, and very specifically on the PS5, which is what I'm playing on. So I'm going to be going through the controls of, how to do certain actions when you're building within the build menu, how to gather the resources that you're going to need to start off with. And yeah, some of you might already have a little bit of experience with this, but trust me, on talking to other players within the game over the last, I guess, week, really, I'm surprised at how many people still don't know the basics. They're still wondering why their bases are degrading, and just how to do certain things like keep a vehicle on your base without it despawning, as an example. So let's jump into it. So let's have a quick look at what we've got in our inventory. I would recommend you go off and do a little bit of scavenging first. Go off and collect a load of nails, wires, batteries. You'll probably need burlap, rebars, scrap metal, polythene or polyethylene, wolf pelts, spare parts, sheet metal, and to be honest with you, that's pretty much it. But you will need maybe a wood cutter's axe or a fire axe that you'd need to put on your shoulder to be able to cut down trees, which is what we're going to do in a second once this noisy bike goes past. So let's take a quick look at the map. Now, something really important here, early game, is for you to strategically choose your base location. I mean, personally, I would recommend trying to build a base relatively close to the safe zone and one of the kind of main villages or towns within the area that's going to give you everything you need all in one area. Pretty much you're probably going to be able to scavenge for a lot of things, although I will say that if you go to Yantar, this whole area down here is a building site. It's half built houses. You're going to be able to find a lot of things like nails and the rebar and the sheet metal and the polyethylene that I was just pointing out a second ago. You're going to find a lot of that there. Scrap metal and stuff, which you will need to search for as well. We do have a little bit of scrap metal in here we are going to use for a couple of things we're going to create. Ultimately, the scrap metal, as you can see, can be sold to traders for reputation, which unlocks new things you can purchase at different tiers within the trading system. But it's also used for certain crafting recipes, and we are going to craft a few things that are going to require some scrap metal. So go out there, do the searching around, try and find the best places to find a lot of this stuff, and then once you've got a good supply of it, then you can start building. I wouldn't recommend building your house or your base in parts. I'd recommend having enough to kind of go whole hog on the first build. And the first build I'd recommend that you guys do within this area that we've just spoke about should be relatively basic. You just want something where you can store up some loot in some containers, where you can put down a bed as a consistent spawn point, and somewhere where you can store at least a bike. So as I mentioned, I have got some planks, and you're probably wondering, where did I get hold of 800 planks? Well, eventually we will build in our base a saw bench or a wood planer to be able to turn these logs that you chop with your axe into planks. But at the start of the game, when you've not even built your base yet, you can find these sawmills. There is one just north pretty much of the safe zone down near Sosnovka, which is just one of the two safe zones within the map, so quite easy to find. And just up here in this area here is a sawmill, and it's not far from where we're building our base. And what you can do is you can just go up to the wood planer that's already in there. You don't need to worry about powering it up or anything. You just add your logs to it, and away it soars, and you can just leave it to do its thing. And then you've got some planks ready to kind of help you build some of the bigger storage boxes within your base at the beginning, and maybe even use it to upgrade the first part of your base with wooden planks. and that is probably a good idea to go off and do that, as I've said, with prep, to get all those items together ready to start your base with, you know, so you can just pretty much go whole hog right at the start of your build. There's a lot to learn, a lot to take in. Hopefully we'll be able to cover it all off in this video, and I guess without further ado, let's jump in to just collecting the first few bits we need from these trees to be able to build the start of our base. Okay, so first things first, we're actually going to collect some sticks. When you run up to one of these bushes and you start chopping away, notice how we've got this little symbol down at the bottom of the screen in the middle that shows you how many you're collecting. This is going to be a little bit laborious, so I am literally just going to do this and just skip ahead. Well, however, I will say that I also need a few logs for a couple of the crafting recipes, and I'm going to grab those now quick as well. But I'll just skip forward once I've got enough to build the foundation of our base. Okay, so I think that's probably enough twigs for now, or branches, whatever you want to call them. I've got over 500. It's probably enough for us to start building. And to be honest with you, you know, like if I need more, these bushes and trees, they give you unlimited resources. It's not like some survival games where you cut down trees and then you got to try and find others. So, you know, what we can do now is we can equip our hammer, which we've got down in our hotbar down the bottom here. Now, if you've not found a hammer in the world yet, if you go press R1 when you're in the inventory to scroll across to the crafting menu, and then on the left hand side scroll down through your items and then go to the base item here. The first thing in the list is a hammer, and to craft that you only need 10 branches. We've got over 500 from what we've just chopped off that bush, so easy to craft. And one thing I would recommend doing though before you actually start crafting, if you want to, is scroll through all your base crafting items and read all the descriptions. Trust me, there's a lot of people that are building bases, they're still asking me questions about stuff that if they'd have just read the description of the item in this base building list of things, it would give them their answer that they're looking for. And I know some people, you know, it's a lot to take in and you just want to go off and shoot enemies and just squirrel away your loot, but trust me, it's really important. But anyway, once you've got your hammer in your hotbar, I use the radial wheel, use the hotbar along the bottom of the screen if you've got it. I've removed mine because I don't like it there, but I like the radial wheel. Press and hold left on the directional pad to be able to open the radial wheel, and then use the right thumbstick to kind of like scroll around to what you want. I don't want the axe style, I want the hammer. And as soon as you bring the hammer out, notice now that we've got this green square. Awesome. If your square is red, then or if what you're trying to put on the floor is red, then it means you're either within the boundaries of someone else's base marker, or you're too near to a point of interest within the game and it doesn't let you build there. The fact that this is green is fantastic. If you want to choose other structures, as you can see in the text on the screen there, press L2 to select structures. And by pressing and holding down L2, you have to hold it down, it gives you a radial wheel which you can then choose different building parts, if you want to call them that. But what we want is the foundation first. The foundation is the first thing you need to put down. And trust me, the first thing you want to do after you've put your foundation down is you then want to go back into your crafting menu, or you could have done this already, to be honest with you, I could have done this already. We need to build the storage. Now this storage is the most important, and as it says, a key base module that requires resources to preserve the upkeep time of other modules in its active radius. I'll explain a bit more about that in a minute. But basically what this is going to do is it is going to claim your land, right? So if you've built your whole base and you haven't put one of these down yet, and some guy starts building right next to you and he puts one of these down, then he could potentially have blocked off your land and you now can't continue to build, or it won't let you put one of these down. So if you've built your base, right, and you try and put one of these down and it's red, then someone else has already beat you to putting down land claim in the area and you've just wasted all your time. Don't worry though, you can break down your base parts and reclaim all your materials that you've collected, and I will show you how to do that in a minute once we've built a little bit more. But let's get this down quick. Now, as you can see, we've on the right hand side now got construction permitted popped up. But notice how below it says structures are decaying. Well, some people are like, well, what's that? What's happening is my what I've put down, the foundation here, is decaying. And when we open the storage box here, you can't store anything in there other than the resources you use to build your base with. And notice now, down on the left hand side here, it says cost per 24 hours. It's got the picture of the branches, it says ×5, and it says structures are decaying. So in order for us to stop our structure from decaying, we need to put resources in there. And if we now place 5 branches in there, which is what it's asking for, cost per 24 hour, it now says that it's protected for, well, 23 hours and 59 minutes now. And now in the bottom right hand corner it says upkeep time 23 hours and 59 minutes. This is why people's bases are decaying. This is why they're just being damaged and falling down. And that is something that's really important. You need to check what it's asking you for, because it also depends on what your base is made from. When we upgrade our base from branches to maybe parts of it being wooden planks, it will then require a bit of both. It will require branches and wooden planks. Once it's all made of wooden planks, it'll ask for just wooden planks to upkeep the protection of your base. If you then start swapping things to metal, then you're going to need to put metal in there, and you might even need to put branches, wood, planks and metal in there as well, which is usually sheet metal is what it asks for upkeep. Sheet metal here. The moment we've made literally a 1 wood foundation and it's just 5 branches. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier, where you build your base and the materials you make your base out of is going to be different, maybe depending on what server you're playing on. Like, I'm playing on a PvE server here just so I can do this tutorial video without being shot by other players and being trolled, right? If you are playing on a PvP server where other players can kill you, you're going to probably want to build your base in a more covert location, a place where you're hidden away, where your base is a little more hidden, and that's for you to decide on where you want to build it. It's a huge map. Do a little bit of exploration and a little bit of research before you decide to build it. If you're playing on a PvE server where you're just playing with the community, no one can kill you, no one can raid your base, but you're going off and you're doing missions and you probably want to, you know, do a bit of looting, kill some, you know, AI bot enemies and stuff like that, you might just want to build your base, as I said earlier on, closer to the safe zone where you can just go and sell up all your loot and start earning some cash, start building up your reputation so you can buy some better gear. Let's get up a quick base. Let's bring back out our hammer by using the radio wheel, and now if we press L1 and bring up our foundation, I am literally just going to make a relatively small base. We put these down by pressing R2 to build once they're snapped. So these blocks will snap. If you're playing the game, you'll know what I mean. Are very easy to snap, and certain things can be rotated with square, although to be honest with you, unless you're really anal about the lines of the sticks being all perfectly in line with each other, I'm not, but if you are OCD like that, then you will want to rotate your blocks. I'm not bothered. Personally, for this tutorial video, this is going up nice and quick. As I said earlier, I wouldn't recommend building a massive base if you are thinking about relocating at a certain point. This is more than big enough for me. But now, as you can see, when we look at the foundation, it gives us the option to press and hold square to tear that up. So if we've made a mistake, we can press and hold square to tear down what we've built. And those resources are going to go back into your inventory, so don't worry, you're not losing those. And then we can just press and hold L2 down again, go back into the building radio menu to be able to just redo what we might have done by mistake. Another thing you can do though is here in the middle. So if you're not getting that option coming up and you've got some, you know, some other part showing up, press and hold down on the L2 trigger button on the controller, and then use the right thumbstick to choose upgrades, repairs, and disassemble or disassembly. And what that's now going to do when we look at something, it's going to give you that option again. So now it's showing us what we can do to upgrade. So I've got enough stuff to upgrade this floor to wood if I want to, but at the moment I'm not going to do that because there's some other things I want to build with those wooden planks and nails first, and then if I've got enough left over, then I will probably start upgrading this. But remember, you're then going to have to put wooden planks in your storage to be able to upkeep, so make sure you've got either a wood planer built with a generator so you can actually make your own planks, or you're close enough to a sawmill like I am to be able to run across and actually cut planks there, because otherwise your base is going to start degrading if you don't upkeep it with the required items. Okay, alright, so next, which way are we going to want to come in from? I'd say probably the road. This road here leads to two of the main kind of areas that I'm probably going to be visiting. So I'm going to put a ramp on this side, and there's the ramp there. And then what we can do to make a wide garage door is we can choose one of the scaffolds on the side here. And this is really important. Notice how we've got these yellow arrows. That means that that's going to be the outside, and if we now build this the wrong way round, we're going to be having the textures for the outside of, you know, the walls and the doors facing the wrong way. So we can press square to rotate, so we've got the arrows pointing out, and then R2 to build. Next, we're going to choose the gate, which will automatically snap in the right direction. Okay, cool. Now, maybe we should have some walled windows. We want a nice view of the lake over here behind us. So again, make sure we're rotating this so the arrows are facing the other way. But remember, if you do make the mistake, you can always press and hold down again on the left trigger button, the L2, the bottom one on the left of the controller. Choose the option to be able to modify, and then what we can do is we can literally just press and hold square to tear it down. So just say that was facing the wrong way a minute ago, we can then just undo you know, what we have done wrong. Now, I may be repeating myself a little bit here, guys, but obviously it's a lot to take in, and once you've got this down, obviously you'll be a whiz at it in no time. But if you are a new player, then yeah, you're going to want to learn this stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to put one window in the middle of each side, and then we're going to have literally just a blank wall, which I'm choosing from the directional radio wheel here. So we can kind of use these as kind of areas where we can put some shelving or ornaments up against. And then we're going to choose a roof. Now the thing is, if you want to build a second story, you can always tear this stuff down at a later time to be able to put stairs in here. And I will just show you very quickly how you can put the different stairs in. So there's a few different types of stairs that you can put in depending on which way you want them to face. Like if we was you know, wanting to get up onto the roof here, we can put stairs down. I'm not building stairs this time around. I'm only building one, and obviously you can build in the walls and stuff as well, but at the moment we're not. We are literally just building you know, just one level. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pop in the windows, which well, shutters, which is on this side. And again, just go up to the windows and press R2 to build in the slot. Okay, so next up, we're going to want to lock our gate so no one else can come in here. Now, like I said, I'm playing on PvE, so in the player versus environment, so as no one can steal your stuff. Your crates cannot be opened by anyone. So when you build storage crates, doesn't matter if another player comes in here, he's not going to be able to do anything. The players on PvE can't damage your base, so if your base units are showing damage, then it's because it's decaying, because you've not got the right things in the storage. I know I keep going back to that. It also can be, though, sometimes if you do break stuff down with the hammer, like we were doing a second ago, like say you've got a storage crate and you don't like where you've put it and you break it down, it will actually then degrade over time every time you break something down and then reuse it. So just be aware of that. But you can repair things, and I will show you about repair in a little while once we get a little bit further along on this build. But first, well, I say first, the most important thing we need to do now we've got our gate up is we need to craft a base lock. And in our base building inventory, so again from our main inventory, which we press up on the directional pad to access this, as I'm sure you're aware by now, press R1 to go back into the craft menu, and make sure you scroll back and press X onto the base module. We can then go along to the right here, and notice here is the base lock. Now the base lock requires 3 wires and 3 spare parts, which we've already found. So, you know, as I said, from looting around. So now we've crafted that, we need to make sure that it's in our hotbar, which it is, because we've got a spare space in our hotbar along the bottom here. We can then now equip this go up to our gate and notice how now below open and close is install a lock. And what that circle around it means is you need to press and hold the square button to install the lock. It's now going to ask you to put in a password. Put in your password, whatever you want. And then when you go to open it for the first time, it's going to want you to re-put in the code. And now while you're in the session, you won't need to re-input your code. But do remember that if you die and respawn, or if you leave the server, then you will have to re-put in your code again. Okay. Now we've got the code up, we can go over and get our bike, which does need me to put the code in, because I've not used it for a while. Bikes will respawn around half an hour. Even if it's got a lock on it, they will despawn. What we can do now is bring our bike inside just to keep it a little bit safe. And plus I have stored a few things in the back of it that I will use in a little while. Okay, right. So next up, let's say do the mechanics storage, because we've got our mechanics workbench to store the mechanic items. So this, you will require 10 scrap metal, 10 spare parts and 1 car battery. Now car batteries can be found just by looting the boots of certain cars. So when you go up to the back of certain cars, you'll notice that there is kind of like a box in the back that's got this outline that you can search. Sometimes you can find batteries in like garages and gas stations and stuff like that, and just generally in the world. So search around, get all the stuff you need, craft one of those, because this is what's going to stop your vehicle from despawning overnight, as I've mentioned to you before. Once we put this down and we look in it, it's now saying vehicle is losing durability on the left hand side. So what it's showing us is to keep the bike for 24 hours we need 2 spark plugs and 2 machine oils, right? So if we logged off now and then log back on tomorrow, even though we've got our base and you know, our base is all good, well it will be once we've pop the branches in there that it needs so it doesn't decay, because it needs 115 now. We've built a lot more. This would disappear when we've logged back in tomorrow. This would have been gone. So over time now it would degrade as if it was getting damaged, and then it would just poof, be gone. So what we can do now is we can just go into our storage, because I've stored in some machine oil and some spark plugs that I've already found just from looting around the world. We can now put these 2 things in there, and now notice now that's gone where it says protected. It's gone green now, which means we're good. Our bike is now protected in our base for 3 days, 11 hours and 58 minutes, and that means this is now not going to vanish overnight. If you get yourself more than 1 vehicle, the cost is going to jump up exponentially. The game developers have seemed to have made it so having more than 1 vehicle is extremely expensive, so try and only keep 1 on your base at any one time if you can. And once you finally get yourself one of the Jeeps or one of the Land Rovers or whatever you want to call them, that will require not only machine oil and spark plugs, but also vehicle repair. Well, they're like mechanics tools, I think they're called. And they're like red boxes, and you get those from bunkers, exclusively from bunkers, which is a whole new thing on its own. I have got videos on my channel about the bunkers. Do take a look at those if you're interested on how to get them, but you will need some of those red mechanic tools to keep those on your base as well. Okay, next up, let's craft a little bit of storage, and this is why I decided to go and get the planks and the nails, is purely so we can craft ourselves the large plank container, which holds 36 items, which is quite nice, and also the wooden shelving to store it on. So let's craft the wooden shelving, and let's also craft a couple of these larger containers. Now, this is in our hotbar. So let's just show you. That's gone in a hotbar because I had nothing in it. So, you know, blank out the hotbars if you want stuff before you craft it to go straight in there. And then what we can do is use our hot wheel to be able to bring out one of these bad boys. And our bike is kind of in the way a little bit at the moment, so we might have to move that back in a minute. For now, I know this is overlapping with one of the windows a little bit, but at the moment I don't care, because this is just for me, you know, for tutorial purposes. And now what we can do is we can choose the large plank container, and we can now just literally press R2 to fit that in the shelving. And we can now equip the other one and put the next one in. Now you can store 3 of these with the one on the top shelf as well, but in order to reach one on the top shelf, you're going to have to craft yourself a chair or a table, wooden chair or wooden table, which is in there. Yeah, one of these little chairs usually is enough if you just put it in front, because you can't quite place one because it's too high. You will have to stand on something to be able to get a little bit higher up. Do you know what? I'm just going to do it anyway. Let's not faff around. I think I've got just enough planks probably to be able to do what I need to do anyway. So let's put down the chair. We can decraft this in a minute anyway, and I will show you what I mean, because as you see, standing down here, you can never place one. Maybe this will get fixed. It could just be a bug. You're too low, basically. The game thinks you're too low to place it. It doesn't let you. But if I jump up on the chair, stand on the chair, now we're high enough to be able to put that on the top shelf. And then to get rid of the chair, although the chair does increase your comfort level, we'll talk about that very briefly in a minute because I've got a whole video on that. We're just going to tear the chair up. Get my tongues twisted. We'll go back in our inventory, as I've said. And actually, yeah, now I can just show you that. Notice now that the bar in the chair is showing as slightly degraded. So let's just put the chair actually over in this corner here just for a second, so you can see what I mean. Now when we look at the chair, you'll notice how it's lost health, and that's because we tore it down and then rebuilt it. It's lost durability. We can get the hammer, go back into the repair thing, and then notice how now we've got repair as an option. 1 plank and 2 nails to repair it. Okay, let's just do that anyway, but just to show you how you do it. And that's how you repair pretty much everything. You choose the repair, upgrades, repairs, and disassembly, and then it will tell you what you need to either upgrade or repair. But anyway, we've got our storage crates now. Great. So what you can basically do is, now on the left hand side, is you can store up all your juicy loots, all the stuff that you want to store. So just say we want to store our woodcutter's axe over there. You just, from your inventory, you can either press right trigger, the R2 trigger, sorry, and then choose move to container from the sub menu, or you can literally just, while you're in the container, just literally press X on it to be able to store it across. So yeah, now we've got some nice storage. What we can do now, what do we want to build next? Let's have a look in the craft menu. So next up, we probably want to build a water collector because you're going to get thirsty. And unless you're near a pump or a well, they're scattered around the map and they're all different designs, so they all look different. But the water collector will collect water even if you craft it inside your base. And again, I don't know if that's a bug, if that will change or not. You might have to put it outside at some point. We'll craft one anyway. That needs 10 logs, 4 polyethylene or polythene sheets, and 4 nails. So not overly expensive to build. This will take time though to fill up with water. Just be aware of that. And I'm not being too precious about where I'm putting it right now because, yeah, this is all for tutorial purposes. But this will fill up with water over time. A little note about this. Even when there's water in it, sometimes it will show as 0. Sometimes you have to kind of bounce around it. It's probably another bug like this. Look around each side until suddenly that little bar that says 0 fills up, and then you can drink water from it, or you can take your flask and you can hold the flask in your hand and then choose collect water. At the moment there's nothing in it. I've still got some water in my flask, so we're all good. So one very important thing that we probably should have actually built already, and to be honest with you, it actually was the second thing I actually wanted to build after the storage, and I've totally forgot about it, is a bed. The really important thing about building the bed is this is going to be like a spawn point for you. You can craft sleeping bags, which obviously are really important to craft in items, which you craft from 10 rags. The early game tutorial shows you that anyway, and basically you can craft up to 15 sleeping bags at any one time, and as it says here, decays if placed outside the base storage radius for around 72 hours. If you're playing on a PvP server, other players can damage your sleeping bags if they find them. If it's outside your base radius, they're going to decay over the 72 hours on the PvE servers. But with the bed, it's just a little bit nicer to have in your base. You could just put a sleeping bag down in here and use that as your main spawn point, and you know, that's fine. But I've got the items here, the 10 planks, the 10 nails, the 4 burlaps, and the 4 wolf pelts to be able to make the bed, which is why, again, I went off and collected all those items before we started building this base. Now the bed is in my inventory here. We can literally just pop that down. And if you're using a bed or a sleeping bag, what I would highly recommend is, now you're looking at it, press square and choose name base. Alright, and the reason being is, when you build your base on the map, it doesn't seem at this point, even with the storage down, to give you a map marker to show us your base. So what that little, it's going to show as a green sleeping bag, like some of these other little sleeping bags I've put down as spawn points in case I died at any of these locations. Okay, but now this one's going to say base, as you can see next to it. So we're always going to be able to find our base. We can use it as a spawn point if we die and it's nearer to where we've died than any of our sleeping bags. And that's something else that's really important to build inside your base. Alright, so we've covered off pretty much the basics of, you know, putting your base together. This is our base. We can keep our vehicle in here now without our vehicle degrading. Yes, you could build yourself a separate building within the build area. If we take out our hammer, what you can see is this. If I go into third person, you'll probably be able to see a little bit better. We've got this big green circle around the area. That's our land. No one else can build in this land. We can build on it. We've got a massive space to build in. But as I've said, start of the game, I'm not going to be building like too extravagant. And also remember, these people that build these huge bases, you're going to be spending most of your time putting resources into your cupboard, into your storage cupboard, to stop your base from degrading. I want to be out there doing missions and looting and, you know, exploring the map. I don't want to be spending every day chopping down 1,000 logs and cutting them up into planks to upkeep a huge base, unless you're only playing this game for base building, and it's entirely up to you. You know, this is your game, your choice on how you play it. You know, you guys do what you want. But that, for me personally, I don't want to be doing that. My base is going to be nice and small. I'm going to have enough storage to be able to, you know, keep all my juicy loots nice and secure and not have to worry about anything else. But what we are going to do now is we are going to pimp up our base just a little bit, and we are going to make a grill so we can actually cook some food, you know, without having to make the campfire every time. And for this, it's just 4 sheet metal and 4 rebars. Rebars you will find in those scrap piles, the rusty looking round scrap piles that also usually have some scrap metal in there as well when you search them. But you can also find rebars sometimes in the partly built buildings or building sites. I've already mentioned one earlier at Yantar, and also just maybe scattered around some areas that are industrial sometimes. Let's build one of these and put it wherever you want. Put it next to your bed, put it next to your bike, whatever, I don't know. I mean, look, this is a metal grill. We open it up, we can literally put some... My cat's not going to jump on my mic. We're going to put, you know, put your logs in there and your food in there on this side, and then just literally light it to cook as you would with a campfire. And that's, yeah, I've got no meat on me to cook at the moment. But now we've got means to cook food in our base as well, so we don't even need to leave our base. So at this point, I'd say looking at the crafting, we've got pretty much all the main things in here we need. We've got water, we've got something to cook, we've got something to keep bike here without it despawning overnight. We've got the main important thing, which is the storage cupboard to be able to put resources in there to stop our base from degrading. So now with the leftover materials that I've collected, we could maybe build some more storage if I wanted more. At the moment I'm not going to bother. That's more than enough for me right now. I've got enough to be able to build a generator, and also then maybe a wood planer if I wanted to be able to turn logs into planks. I could also make a metal planer, which will turn scrap metal into sheet metal, which if you have upgraded from branches to planks and then from planks to metal, you will need. You can break down weapons in this to make scrap metal, but you only get 1 scrap metal for any type of weapon you break down. I personally think that's a real waste of money. Sell the guns or make a workbench, and that's what we're decided right now to build, and I'll show you the reason why. Alright, so now we've got our workbench, we can literally just put this down wherever you want. So now what we can do at the workbench is, if you just notice in the right hand corner there's 3 tabs: repair, disassemble and paint, and you use the L1 and R1 trigger on the control to basically scroll through these 3 tabs. Notice at the left hand corner, when the sector activity notification wants to disappear, it shows you resources that you will need to repair the weapons that I'm actually using at the moment. So these are weapons that I've got equipped, but if I do have like weapons in my inventory, like in my backpack, they will also show here. The resources that you need to repair these you get from literally breaking down other guns within that same category. So if I have a load of excess sniper rifles I've picked up basically from the dead AI bots I might have killed, and the shotguns you get from them, and even the assault rifles, and then I come here and I disassemble them, and you disassemble them by literally pressing and holding X on the rifle that you want to disassemble once you're in this tab, and then you will get the parts that you need, which are the ones that you can see up in the left hand corner that do have the symbols of the type of gun that you are breaking down, as an example. So that's a sniper rifle symbol on that top left picture, and a shotgun symbol, and so on and so forth. The same goes for if you want to repair like armor and stuff as well. So you're going to have to break down helmets and armors that are within the same category as the ones you want to repair. So if you're like breaking down, just say the police armor, you will only get like the Kevlar, and you need to break down like the heavy armor if you want the heavy plates to be able to repair the heavier armor, and so on and so forth. To get the fabrics you need, you're going to have to break down things like vests and clothing, and yeah, there's a little bit more to it. Once you start doing it, you'll totally get it, it'll totally click. There is one more thing you can do in here, and that's paint, and to be honest with you, I've not really bothered with this because it is adding like camo skins to weapons and also different clothing designs, and at the moment this is all behind a paywall pretty much. You have to buy the skins from the PlayStation Store. They're quite overly priced in my opinion, but it's up to you. You spend your money on what you want, because this is real world money we're talking about now. And in order to do this, you're going to need paint kits, which you can see in the middle. It says required. You can buy these from the traders. I think they're about $2,000 each, and that's pretty much it for the workbench, guys. You know, that's pretty much it. I think that's really probably the last thing at this point that I would probably craft within my base build. So because I've got quite a lot of planks from what I built earlier, I am going to literally just go around and I'm just going to upgrade all this to planks real quick. And obviously, again, just by going into the radial menu by pressing and holding the L2 button and then choosing the upgrade, repairs and disassembly option at the top of the circle here, we can now just press R2 on this and we'll automatically just upgrade this stuff to planks. Okay, so these are the last pieces we need to upgrade. Now, one last little pointer I will say to you guys, for those of you who are going to be building larger bases, you might want to put scaffolding in between like sections to reinforce the roof. Sometimes it won't let you build, or sometimes you'll have your storage and everything in there, but you'll still notice that the structure is becoming weak. But it could be that it's because, yeah, you need to put some scaffolding down. Now I need to take some of my twigs back out of the storage to be able to make some scaffolding. So let me just split some of these out real quick. Now we can make a scaffold. I'm just going to pop a scaffold in the middle. So everything else is being blocked at the moment. But, you know, that's pretty much, you know, what you'd probably need to do. If you want to build bigger and better, then make sure you put some scaffolding and they will reinforce sections, basically. And that's it. I mean, to be honest with you, some of the building elements might change a little bit in this. There is an update coming to the console in the near future. It's been rolled out on PC from what I've seen, and it's going to give you some new options within the building of bases. However, I think the basics will stay the same. But bear in mind that these games can change, developers can update it. So if you're watching this video in like a year or two's time and anything I've said here doesn't match up to what you're doing, it could be because the developers have changed something slightly within the building mechanics. But yeah, I mean, really, so just taking another look at the crafting options here. So the generators, you will need to be able to create light. So if you do want light in your base when it's dark, you will need to craft the light fixture, which is pretty easy. Scrap metal, light bulb and some wire. But bear in mind that if you've got separate rooms, and if you do then craft a generator and put a generator down in the room and then the lights are not working in the next room, because sometimes walls that break up the different rooms, the walls that break up the different rooms can sometimes stop the lights from working, and sometimes you may need multiple generators to power larger bases. But I think that's pretty much it really, guys. I don't really think there's much more for the basic side of stuff that I can include in the video. I might have missed a few things, but I'll try to include as much as I can to get you guys started. But ultimately, you guys are the ones playing the game. You've still got to figure out stuff yourself while you're playing. That's part of the joy of playing a new game. But hopefully I've covered off enough of the basics to get all you new players out there started with your first fantastic base. Let me know how your base building is going in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on another video. Thanks for watching.